Hazel Brooks was an actress and model that seemed as if she was poised for stardom during the late 40s. Her career ended up fizzling out, but she also preferred the quiet life to that of a star. Though she lived her final years out of the spotlight, the former model and Golden Age actress still led an interesting life before passing away in 2002, and she loved flaunting her beauty. Join Facts Verse as we take a look at rare photos of Hazel Brooks. Hazel Brooks was born September 8, 1924, in South Africa. At age 2, her mother moved her to Boston. During her young adulthood, Hazel began modeling for several notable agencies. She began her career at age 17, and it didn't take her very long to start getting attention with her striking red hair, green eyes, and highly defined cheekbones. After the start of her modeling career, it wasn't long before she was discovered by Hollywood. Her first opportunities in Hollywood came as a result of MGM. She was swept up by executive Arthur Freed, who'd made a name for himself as one of the studio's preeminent talent scouts. Freed was a great talent scout, and Hazel Brooks was a great talent, but MGM couldn't figure out what to do with the burgeoning star. One role she received while at the studio was a bit part in the musical film Ziegfeld Follies. Though Hazel failed to make much of an impression in the review film, amongst the incredibly impressive cast that included Judy Garland, Gene Kelly, and Fred Astaire. Despite MGM's high hopes for Hazel, they didn't end up finding much to do with the star besides shoving her into bit roles in any random motion picture they could find. While she was working at MGM, Hazel Brooks became romantically involved with the head of the studio's art department. His name was Cedric Gibbons. The two announced their engagement in 1943 and got married the next year. At the time of their marriage, Hazel was 19 and Cedric was 49. The startling age gap turned plenty of heads, but the marriage ended up lasting for many years, only ending upon Cedric's death in 1960. A year after marrying Cedric, Hazel Brooks successfully requested to be released from her contract with MGM. She spent some time maintaining her husband's household while he continued working there, but she eventually became dissatisfied living the life of a housewife. A little while later, the actress received her unlikely big break when she was swept up by a burgeoning production company called the Enterprise Studios to be its only contract player. MGM arguably didn't dedicate enough time and resources to finding Hazel's niche in the entertainment industry, and the Enterprise Studios was intent on not repeating this problem. The production company wanted to dedicate as much time and energy into making Hazel a star as it needed to, believing her success was a sure thing. The Enterprise Studios was founded by John Garfield, and a man named Charles Einfeld served as president. Charles allotted a sum of $1 million to make Hazel a star. Before becoming president of the Enterprise Studios, Einfeld was already a notable producer who had been credited with making such actresses as Lauren Bacall and Ann Sheridan into the stars they were. The endeavor to do the same thing with Hazel Brooks proved mildly successful for a time, though she didn't end up becoming quite as big of a star as the prior two. The Enterprise Studios, meanwhile, failed to rise up the ranks and became just another independent studio failing to match the big boys. Their efforts to make Hazel Brooks a star included not only several notable performances in films, but also a great deal of press that drew attention to the star's most defining and appealing attributes. Press releases called attention to her intellectualism and ambition, and painted the age gap between her and her first husband in a positive light by claiming that the esteemed actress only pursued men who'd already found career success. Of course, Hazel's biggest selling point proved to be her beauty, and she wasn't afraid of showing a little skin to get ahead. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like, and subscribe to Facts Verse if you haven't already. And stick around for more on Hazel Brooks. According to Charles Einfeld, his initial vision for the Enterprise Studios didn't allow for contract players like Hazel Brooks. Although the producer had already made a name for himself, rocketing Lauren Bacall and Ann Sheridan to stardom, he claimed he had a different vision for the Enterprise Studios. According to him, his aim was to only hire actors and actresses on a picture-by-picture basis. The goal of the studio was to rely on the high caliber of its work instead of any one player's star status. Despite Charles's ambitions to make the company different than the companies he'd worked with before, plans apparently changed when he met Hazel Brooks. He saw a great deal of potential in the fledgling star and couldn't believe that no one had swept her up yet and made her the next big thing. Hazel became the studio's first and only contract player, and the producers spent $1 million making her a star. After signing with the Enterprise Studios, Hazel and Cedric moved to Bel Air to be closer to her new work. The world may have balked when they got married, but the pair proved a loving couple. Hazel considered Cedric to be the kindest man she'd ever met, and the two remained married from 1944 until his death in 1960. Hazel's first film with the Enterprise Company was 1947's Body and Soul, which was a fairly big hit and has gone down since as a classic boxing film. In the film, Hazel played a gold digger named Alice. The film's premiere brought significant attention to Hazel, along with the intense press the studio had paid for. Following the film's release, Hazel could be seen vacationing in Hawaii, with newspaper press releases drawing great attention to the actress's swimwear. She was then cast in a 1948 feature titled Sleep My Love. The melodrama was notable for its inclusion of plot elements that regarded illicit substances. The production code had previously prevented the production of any film involving drug use, but had recently incorporated a loophole that allowed minimal drug content so long as it was integral to the plot. Sleep My Love was one of the first Hollywood features to take advantage of this loophole, and it certainly got some attention for it. While MGM had a tough time finding a place for Hazel Brooks, the Enterprise Studios was better about finding roles that fit her talents. However, Sleep My Love ended up being the only film made by the studio featuring Hazel in a starring role. Her career ended up fizzling out yet again for a variety of reasons, not the least of which being the actress simply wasn't that into it. The whole time she was in Hollywood, she was slowly beginning to realize she preferred the quiet life to superstardom. Although Hazel was certainly an immense talent with plenty to bring to the screen, she never came into her own quite like stars Lauren Bacall and Ann Sheridan had. Despite her and Charles Einfeld's best efforts, she failed to make a significant impression on audiences, even if the few films she did appear in for the Enterprise Studio were successful. She only appeared in a few more films after Sleep My Love and was retired from the industry by the mid-50s. After Cedric died in 1960, Hazel found other avenues to explore in life. She apparently went on to become a fairly successful photographer and also worked actively for a variety of children's charities. She remarried several years after her first husband's death. Her second husband was a surgeon named Rex Ross. The two married in the late 60s and stayed married until Rex's death in 1999. Hazel survived him for a few years before passing away herself in 2002. She was 78. Now it's time to hear from you. What are your favorite memories of Hazel Brooks? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.